Hi everyone. Now that we have read a fair amount of information about attributes, we know that there are two kinds, global and non-global attributes. Global attributes apply to all elements, be it a paragraph, block code, list, image, hyperlink, etc., etc. And then there are attributes specific to a particular element. Like the start attribute is specific to only ordered lists, and these are called non-global attributes. But there are so many elements and attributes that it isn't practical to cover them all in this course. So we're going to be looking at two good reference websites. The first is the W3C cheat sheet we saw in the pre-work about W3C and the web section under W3C tools. This is the cheat sheet. The second is the Mozilla Developer Network Attribute Reference. Typically, to learn about an element and its attributes, you'll visit the HTML5 specification. This is the HTML5 specification and under the section Global Attributes. But it can be a little overwhelming when you're starting off with HTML5. The W3C cheat sheet and the MDN attribute reference has this information condensed in an easy to access manner. So I would like to give a little overview on how the W3C cheat sheet works. So you can look up any attribute or a tag in HTML. So let's look at one that we've already learned in week one, the h1 tag. So all you have to do is type its name, and it's going to provide the list of attributes that can be applied to this particular tag. The h1 tag only takes global attributes. It doesn't have any non-global attributes of its own. And it gives a description on what the tag is about, and also gives nice tips like use h1 for top level headings or to structure your document. Let's also look at the paragraph tag here. Once again, global attributes can be applied to it. It represents a paragraph. And what I really like is you can also navigate directly to the HTML specification under the paragraph element, and it's going to give you more information. And sometimes you can find code samples as well to get a better understanding of the element itself. So now if you want to know more about the list of global attributes, all you have to do is click on this, and it's going to take you to a list of all the global attributes. Let's look at a few that we've already learned, like the class attribute. So here under elements, it gives you the list of elements that the attribute can be applied to. Since class is a global attribute, it can obviously be applied to all elements. And we learned that multiple classes can be applied to an element if they are split by spaces. And let's look at one more, the title attribute. The title attribute is used to provide additional information about something like an abbreviation or add some context to an image. And they give a nice little accessibility techniques when it comes to using the title attribute, like provide a title using the title element, not the title attribute, and use the title attribute to provide context-sensitive help. And the application of the title attribute varies very slightly depending on the element. Like if you apply it on an abbreviation or a definition, it is used to provide full term or expansion of the abbreviation. Likewise, it differs slightly for elements like input, link, and style. The best way to use the W3C cheat sheet is, let's say you want to use the block code tag, but you also want to find out the list of attributes that can be applied to it. So you go to the block code page, and apart from the HTML attributes, the global attributes, you can also apply one called cite. Cite is used to provide the source of the quotation in the block code, mostly for search engines. So you realize you like the cite attribute, but you also want to use it in your Q tag. Your Q tag is used to mark up a short quotation. But does the Q tag support the cite attribute? Just click on the cite attribute and find out the elements that it can be applied to. Moving on to the MDN attribute reference list, it works very similar to the W3C cheat sheet. It gives you a list of all the attributes in the first column, and then the elements that it can be applied to, as well as a description on what the attribute does. Let's look at our famous start attribute. So the start attribute can be applied to only ordered lists, and it defines the first number of the list if it is something other than 1. And if you want to know more information about an element, just click on the element here, which will take you to the elements page. And the elements page provides a description of the element itself, as well as all the attributes that can be applied to it. If you see a little HTML5 label here, it means that this attribute in particular was introduced in HTML5. And you can also find neat samples illustrating the use of each attribute. You can also find several other HTML elements in the MDN website. They have a nice little navigation on the left that can take you to different element pages. So that's it for now, and go ahead and explore attributes and all of the elements that you can think of.